Hello and welcome to another Expertise Exchange. I have the incredible Donna Wills here. I'm so excited about speaking with her on record this time because we actually caught up last week, and the stories that she shares and the experience that she has in the vet physio world. But you're also a vet nurse, weren't you? So you've got so much expertise over so many years, and some of the things that you came out with last week were pure gold. So I'm going to be channeling into Donna's amazing expertise and energy. Donna, thank you so much for saying yes to this. Can we please start by you telling us what your history is? How did you get here?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, wow, history is, a very big word. And it's a bit weird actually feeling like that is such a big thing, actually, because it's bizarre. You go on your journey of your learning, and then all of a sudden you realize you're nearly 20 years in and you're like, whoa, actually quite a lot has happened. So yes, I'm Donna Wills. I originally started out as a vet nurse. I had a ton of backstory stuff before that. My uncle was a farmer and I used to help him, and I did agricultural college and all those sorts of things. But my real, got my teeth into it was my time working as a vet nurse. And then when I finished I didn't finish. I don't like to use that word, finish my vet nursing, but my career evolved. I really decided I liked rehabilitation. And so I decided to do my rehab course. And it overlapped for quite a time because you get too scared to make that full jump into working full time by yourself, self-employed, scary stuff. But I did make that jump, and I'm really proud that I've done it. And yeah, so now I'm been running my business for nearly 20 years, which is quite incredible. So yeah, there's been a lot of backstory.
Absolutely. And at one point you were at the Harrods Pet Spa, weren't you, doing the animal exercise? When was that in the journey?
So I did a lot of stuff there. And my main bit was the physio and the luxury massage. That was my sort of main part of it. But obviously when they use you and they get people in, I was one of their external people that came in, they want to take advantage of you. So I did end up having many hats there. And one was the personal training, the exercise therapy. And we did yoga there, and we did, tortoise grooming, and all sorts of things. And obviously there was groomers and various people in there as well. This was quite early doors. I say early doors because it's a bit weird. It feels like it was early doors because it was relatively soon after I decided to go full time with the physio. But I had at that point been a physio for a couple of years. But I was so scared to go fully self-employed because obviously it's scary. You've got a mortgage and all this sort of thing. So, for me, the easiest thing was to do the nursing. And I was an emergency and critical care nurse at the time, which I did enjoy. And then I evolved my nursing into more useful areas. And so over that, I was able to connect with people, meet people, and then it set me up for when I was going to be full-time physio in all the veterinary practices that I was in. So the reason why that's relevant is because I set myself up in 5 local veterinary practices. I say local, I mean they were dotted down the M4 and in the south. And that took time. But the reason why was because I felt like the bigger circle that I had around me of people to potentially come to me, the better. So if I had these circles too close to each other, then they would overlap and that wouldn't be helpful. So I wanted them spread out because, again, we're talking 20 years ago. So people were kind of, physio for your dog, yeah, right. And so that has changed a lot now as there's lots of us, but there was not back then. And so it was a very, very difficult thing to try and, get your clients. So I did that, and it worked out really well. And then one of my many clients, my many clinics, because mostly in veterinary practices, one of them was Harrods. And that was because I just got really good at thinking outside the box. And I want to say good at thinking outside the box because I did quite a few things to try and drum up business, if you like. I had to make sure I was going to be able to pay my mortgage every month. And that was a big driver. And so I connected with Harrods. I thought, why not? And then it was really bizarre timing because Steph, who was the manager of the Pet Spa at Harrods, actually contacted me. She said, "You're not going to believe this. I actually was about to contact you." I was like, "What?" So I take it I was headhunted, but that was because I had networked strongly, and I had gone round Crufts of all places, which I look at now and think, why would you market yourself in Crufts? Because it's miles away. It's nowhere near me. But I just was absolutely determined to make my business a success. And so I printed off loads of leaflets. I went around Crufts and I took them everywhere and I spoke to everyone. And clearly it worked, because one of the people I spoke to was Steph, who was the pet spa manager. And she remembered me and she remembered my story, and she was who she wanted to connect with for the spa. And so so it was great. We went off and had our meeting, and that, as they say, is that I was then the physio for the pet spa at Harrods, and I'm the only one to ever be able to say that, and will only be the only one to ever be able to say that ever, because it's now closed. There is no spa there anymore. Yes. And which is fine. That's them and their business. It closed as I was pregnant, so it was perfect timing for me, because otherwise I'd have had to hand over anyway. So yeah, I'm very proud of that accolade.
Yeah, I'm very emotionally attached to that story that you shared with me last week, because I trained up and got my Sitting Guilds qualification in dog grooming under Julie Harris, that used to be in the Harrods Pet Spa. So I'm very proud of that, actually, when I go, oh, I'm trained under Julie Harris. It's kind of, I don't know, I feel like you're a big deal if you've been in Harrods, and you were on TV, you were in like the shop window, weren't you? The actual on the street in London. Like, not many people can say that they've done that.
No, exactly. It was a really amazing time, absolutely surreal. At no point in your career do you ever think, well, what do I want to do with my life? Oh, I want to work with our animals and I want to be on TV. I mean, that is just such a weird thing, isn't it? And, you know, I know obviously now these days it's a bit more of a thing, and there are a lot more vets on TV and stuff, but certainly not vet rehabbers or nurses as particularly. I mean, Noel's done it very well for himself and the Yorkshire Vet and things. But back then, all we had was, you know, James Harriet and All Creatures Great and Small, and that was pretty much it. And it wasn't really like a path I ever thought that I would necessarily even want in my life. And I wouldn't say I want to change over to being on the big screen or anything, but I would say it was fun. There's no denying it was fun. And, you know, when you were at Harrods and then the office people would come down and show you this magazine of a photo of you doing your job, working on a dog. And then all of a sudden there's all this wording in Mandarin and you've got no clue what it says. You just have to have faith that it says something lovely and assume that it does. And it's bonkers. And there was loads of radio appearances. I was on BBC London Radio a few times, and you know, all those connections, all those people that you meet, it's been amazing. I mean, like Anna Webb, I still talk to her every now and then. We bumped into each other at Harrods at Crufts, you know, a couple of years ago, and you know, it's just amazing to sort of have these people as now within your bubble. That's pretty cool. And it was incredibly surreal, and the TV stuff was just bonkers, especially when you got picked up by cars and stuff like that. I was like, whoa. And you're sitting in green rooms with these celebs around you and you're just thinking, yeah, this is weird. and you're trying desperately to just not say the wrong thing at all, you know, because you don't know who these people are in any way, shape or form, but you feel like you do know them. I think one of the bizarrest ones for me was, I don't know if I should share this story or not. It's a bit weird, really. Yes. I was at the BBC studios doing a radio show, and Debbie was also there, and she's the daughter of Bruce Forsyth, and she's doing an amazing campaign, Vets Get Scanning. So yeah, I will, because I'm plugging it for her. And that campaign is to make sure that dogs get scanned for their microchips, because she'd had her dog stolen and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I was in the toilets and bumped into her there. That's why I said it's a bit of a weird one, because now all of a sudden you're in the toilet with a celebrity and it's all a bit weird. And, you know, and they're very nice toilets and everything, but I couldn't even figure out how to work the tap because there was something weird going on. So I had to try and figure that out whilst being slightly starstruck. And it's like, okay, this is all very weird. And then afterwards at the end, because I was one of the last to be on, and then Anna Webb ended up leaving the place so we walked out together basically. And I just never forget the view. I mean, I looked to the right and I could see the news studio, which you normally see BBC News and all that red and the office and everything, you see it on TV. And now to see it and it's actually there is like, whoa, that's weird. Because I kind of just thought it was just a weird random background, but no, it's a real office and it's totally bizarre. So yeah, it was really, truly amazing. And I'm really proud to have that in my bag, if you like. And I met some amazing people doing it. There's no two ways about that. And it is the most surreal thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Like people with that much money, you know, able to spend how they are and stuff. And I will add, they were lovely. They were just lovely. There was nothing bad about any of them, but it was just stuff you just don't get your head around unless you see it. Seeing is believing.
Absolutely. And I love that it came from networking. Yeah, you may go to an event that's not even in your hometown, but it's, you know, obviously Crufts is very iconic, but it's like, who are you going to meet and what could that end up leading into? So it's kind of when you're starting from scratch, and you said to me last week a fantastic line, it's like the first 2 years are just really hard. You just have to work multiple jobs. You have to take whatever you can take. Like you have to do the hustle. And it's, okay, I'm going to attend this event. I'm going to spend money to go there. And although it's enjoyable, Crufts is awesome. Like I've got a mission and I'm going to print out my leaflets. I'm giving them out. And even if I don't get anyone at this moment, you don't know what that one leaflet could do maybe in 5 months' time or a year's time. Like imagine if you hadn't gone to that Crufts and hadn't met her there, like the amount of changes that could have followed on from those.
Absolutely, completely. I will also say it's not like you do what you love and that helps. So it's not clinical. The reason why I want to put that out there is because like it can sound like a really gruff mission of, ugh, got to get out of bed, ugh, got to talk to people, ugh. But I do want it to come across that that is not the case. When you love what you do, it's not a problem. Like you said, the Crufts is fun. So you just go, and I like the shopping section much more than the rest of it. So, you know, walking around the stands and meeting people, I quite enjoy it. I quite like that moment to meet different people. It's humbling. You know, you see what walk of life they're in, where they've come from. You know, different people have come from such different backgrounds. And that's a really fascinating story in itself. You know, some people haven't got the money to finance their big project that they're doing and they're desperate. And then other people have got tons of money financing it. And, you know, a load of staff working on their stands. Some of them are cross-legged, waiting to go for a pee and desperate somebody's going to come and help them any minute. So, I mean, that's another good thing actually you can do is if you know people, like when I go to Crufts and stuff, if I bump into somebody that I know, which, by the way, this network grows, I'll often say, oh, do you need to go and get a coffee? Do you want to go for a wee? I can stand here for a bit if you like.
Yeah.
And that's really helpful. So it's not about, you know, business. It probably is, but it doesn't feel like that, if you see what I mean. So for me, it feels like catching up with a mate and meeting new friends. And that's what I really like. And I think that if you can come across like that, then you'll go far because it's genuine and you genuinely want to hear what someone's got to say. And that's really important because it's not just about selling you, it's about being a partnership. It's what you can do for each other. And not just a case of, you know, what can I get out of this? That's not the right headspace. And to be honest, people can pick that up and you're not going to go far with that headspace. So, you know, just be very genuine about it all and just enjoy the moment, enjoy the process.
Yes. Oh, you are a vast of knowledge, you are. So
Thank you.
I wanted to talk to you about your name.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm very impressed by your name. Tell us your business name.
Animal Physiotherapy Ltd.
How brilliant is that?
Yep.
And because you had another name in mind, didn't you? And then you went, no, I'm just going to do what I said on the tin. So tell us.
I did. And it was quite a journey. And it is a really good point. And it does, again, come from listening to people. So you have to listen to people. Even if you don't want the answer, you have to listen. And so when I first started out, yes, I'm old. And that's the joy and the bit I got. That is my time was a while ago. So therefore, this was available to me. And I really did have the pick of the crop as to what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I am really glad of that. And when I was trying to pick my business names, I was erring towards freedom therapy. And the reason why was because, you know, in college, I'd learned about the 5 freedoms for animals and, you know, freedom of movement, freedom from pain, freedom from all these things. I thought, yeah, that's the one. That's going to be great. And then my aunt said to me, who's very good at business, said, Donna, you need to do what it says on the tin. I said, huh? And she said, animal physiotherapy. Why can't you just be animal physiotherapy? I mean, frankly, I'm only limited at the end because that's what they stick on the end of when you're a limited company, and it doesn't actually officially have to go in there. So yeah, it is just animal physiotherapy. And And I didn't really want to be that because I thought it sounded boring. So that wasn't great. But I did recognise what she'd said. And of course, like I say, you talk to people. So I talked to loads of people to find out what they thought. And that's because that's what the right thing to do is. And they all said the same. They said, yeah, you know, it's obvious what you do then. And I thought, okay, so I went with that rather than what I thought. And it clearly was the best thing I've ever done, clearly. I mean, yeah, it makes a big difference on the Google search. There's no two ways about it. And, you know, it is easy. It is obvious. I did prefer that to veterinary physiotherapy, very on purpose, because it was just too much of a mouthful. And animals, again, everybody knows what you're talking about. So it didn't need to sound too pretentious. And that was easy. And I do know that, like, you know, other friends had gone with like spelling changes just to try to be able to trademark, because I can't trademark my name. But like they had done that, and like, so they changed the spellings and stuff, but it actually just meant they were really struggling because nobody spelt it wrong for the Google search. So, So yeah, you're quite right. Your name needs to be simple. It needs to do what it says on the tin. It's as simple as that. And yeah, I don't think there's any getting around that.
Yeah, kind of one of the big top tips is, if you're starting out, is, you know, if you're working in a local area, just be the local area, like physio or dog trainer, whatever expertise you're coming from. Because yeah, when people go, I need a dog trainer in my town's Whitchurch, like if you're called the Whitchurch dog trainer, you're winning.
Yes.
And it's, again, you know, Harrods were looking for a vet physio and an animal physio, and what do they put into Google? Animal physio. Who came up? Donna Wills, Animal Physiotherapy Ltd.
Well, exactly. Although they didn't need to Google me, and back then that wasn't the done thing, because I'd had my leaflet out there and I'd already spoke to Steph. But yeah, it's definitely true. Definitely true. Everything revolves around Google, whether we want it to or not these days, doesn't it? So yeah.
So we've talked about startup a lot. A lot of people in our community are just starting out. What would you say are your top 3 tips for a start out vet physio business?
My top tip is to get yourself out there. It's so easy to be shy, and it's so easy to just constantly make excuses as to why you can't. Oh, I can't because I got to. Oh, I can't because I got. Don't be so negative. You've just got to. You just got to say, no, there is no can't. I got to. I have got no choice. I paid all this money to become qualified in this job, and I want to do it. So I have got to. And so it has to be a got to, just as much as going to the doctors or going to the dentist or anything else. You don't necessarily want to, but you've got to. So yeah, that would be my biggest tip, is get yourself out there, get talking to people, and, you know, just enjoy the moment. Because I think that's when you enjoy it, that's what comes across, and that's when you will succeed. If you don't enjoy the moment and you look like a miserable sod just rocking into a veterinary practice and popping some, hi, would you like these? Sorry, yeah, bye. It's not going to work. And so you've got to, yeah, enjoy the moment and get yourself out there. Try to ignore the imposter moments, because those are heavy, particularly the more sciencey you are and the more, you know, involved in the higher world of, you know, education. I think that imposter moments come in a lot, and certainly I know that it's something that animal physios talk about a lot, and it's really sad. I refuse to call it imposter syndrome anymore, because it's not a syndrome. It is a moment. It will pass just as quickly as it came, and you don't even know why it came, and it's probably time of the month or anything else, who knows. The point being that it's not within your control, and what is within your control is how you handle it. And so you have to just go, okay, you can talk yourself through it, you can justify it, you know, if it's a clinical moment or if it's, you know, anything else, you can, you know, find someone, find a mentor, any of those things to help yourself. But don't let that put you off, and don't let it rule your life, because it is a moment, it will pass, and they will get less and less, but they will never go away. So I'm just saying that so you know, because 20 years on, you still question yourself. Those moments still happen. It's how it is. And I admit that so that it empowers every single other person out there, because there is just, I don't see it ever going anywhere. But to be honest, I don't entirely mind, because it does strive me to be better all the time, because I want to always be the best that I can be. And I think that's probably some of my motivation, which is good. And then third one, I would probably try and manage your time well, because it's really hard. And I think it's really important to not run before you can walk. it's no good setting yourself up with all of a sudden you've got 10,000 clients in 1 week and no way of managing it. You don't know how to write your reports. You don't know how to do this. You don't know how to do that. And all of a sudden you've lost everything. You've got 5 new clients starting a week, haven't actually sorted out the referrals, so you're not actually working legally, and it's just a mess. And then of course the end of the month your accounts aren't done, your accountant's not happy, your tax man's definitely not happy, and you just can't cope. And I think that's too hard for your head. So my personal opinion is to just get organized, and as part of that organizing is managing your time well. So however it works for you, because everybody works differently, but time boxing or whatever, but just make sure you've got set goals, you set some time, make sure you achieve those goals, and just don't go too big until you are ready for it, if you can help it. I know sometimes it's beyond your control, but that would be a strong recommendation, because then you've got time to take a breath and recover what you need to, because you've got to make time for marketing as well. You need to have a sustainable business plan that works long term, and that doesn't work if you throw everything into a little chunk of time and then it all goes wrong. So yeah,
I love that. And your insight to imposter moments instead of syndrome. Now, a big thing that happens, particularly in clients that have taken a long time to educate themselves. I used to find it very heavily in the chiropractic world, and it's exactly the same thing I'm finding speaking to vet physios, is the peer-to-peer judgment. People worried about, if I post this, another vet physio may come for me. Like, how do you manage that, and what's your thoughts on the whole process?
I completely understand. And you do see that all the time. And do you know what? You can't control other people. That's the biggest problem. So I do try and think, I'll do me, you do you, whatever. But I do see it all the time. I mean, there's animal physio forums, for example, and I've seen it where people have put up a post and other people have attacked them for that post. And it might be a question even that someone they're reaching out for help, and you're like, why would you attack that person? She's actually asking for help. That's the right thing to do. Don't squash her now. She's not going to ask for help again. That's awful. That does happen. And I think it's really wrong. And I usually end up getting involved with those posts, particularly because I get really annoyed because I don't take well to people being mean. So, I will usually stick up for them. And regardless of whether I think, right or wrong, it's about finding the positive and trying to help that person, because squashing somebody isn't helpful. There's nothing constructive about that. So it won't get anywhere in the end. So it's totally pointless. So I think you have to remember that if you do get attacked in any way that makes you feel bad, you have to just try and somehow get rid of it, back of your head, accept that some people are real cowboys on the keyboard warriors or whatever it is. I don't know why. I don't know what makes them get out of bed in the morning to be miserable. I don't really understand it. It's not a headspace I've got time for in any way, shape or form. So I couldn't possibly really tell you what they're thinking. All I can say is, try not to put yourself in those situations where possible. I guess think through your posts. I am quite cautious about what I say. So, for example, I went to Lapland last year and we had a fantastic time. And one of the things I was really worried about was the huskies. And, are they actually looked after? Is it going to be really bad welfare and all this sort of thing? Because I don't know. And frankly, when you're brought up in Britain, it is like British people think that we're better than the whole rest of the world for everything. And, and we are world leaders in welfare to some degree. We're not good enough at all by any stretch of the imagination, but we have got high welfare standards. So it's not unreasonable that we think that, but I'm just saying that in my head, I had a real dilemma over what I was going to see. I was worried sick. And then when I saw these dogs, oh, wow, they were so healthy. They were so happy. And it was unreal. And so we went and we did the dog sledding, and I made a post about it afterwards. And I was really aware that it was going to be a controversial subject because, of course, some people really like sledding and some people really don't. And I was never going to make everybody happy with that post. But what I wanted to say was that my mind had been opened. And I did say, at no point do I believe that all husky sites are going to be exactly the same. Of course I don't. In the same way that that's exactly the same in Britain and everywhere else. We don't have the best standards in all situations. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the RSPCA, would we? So the point being that in the situation that I saw, it was absolutely fantastic. And I've always been an open-minded person like this. I mean, I went and worked in a racing yard because there was always so much controversy over racing, horse racing, and there still is. But I thought, I need to have an opinion. This is when I was my late teens. And I thought, if I'm going to have opinion, I really need to see it properly for myself. So I got a job in a racing yard and I did it. And I have to say, whilst there is a dark side to it, of course there is, and I don't particularly agree with it as a sport at all. I would rather horses were just happily doing hacking on all the fun stuff that they want to do. I did see a very good side of it. I mean, the trainer that I was working under was absolutely amazing. He treated those horses like absolute gods. And we had a jockey who got a whip ban while I was working there. And when he got a whip ban, he was banned from our yard too, which was incredible. And so there was, I worked in a good place. So I've only seen good things, to be fair. I would struggle if I hadn't, I agree. I worked at Battersea and, Battersea Dogs and Cats Home, and I saw far more than I wanted to not have seen. And in my career as a nurse, I've seen way more than I don't want to have seen, but that I don't want to have seen. But that's life with animals, unfortunately. All you can do is go with the flow and do what you can at each moment. But yeah, my point was about post was that I did post something that could potentially have really backfired on me. I was cautious about my wording. I made sure it was a very long post so I could explain all of my views well, and not just short so that people didn't get what I was trying to say. And I had an awful lot of really good feedback where people were saying that they had their eyes opened by my post, and they were really happy to see that my mind had been opened and all that sort of thing. So it was easy to turn a difficult situation into a good post with good writing, is what I'm trying to say. So don't be afraid of making difficult posts, but just be mindful of how you do it, I think, is the key. And it's very easy when you're angry to just jump on the keyboard and bash out 2 sentences. That just gets up everybody's back. And I've seen plenty of posts about dogs in wheelchairs. There you go. There's a massively controversial subject, because for some dogs, that's not the life they should have. But for many dogs, it is absolutely fine. And until you've seen them live those lives, you cannot understand how happy they can be. And it's very personal as to whether the owner or the pet parent can actually, I hate the word pet, can actually, look after them sufficiently. And that's all personal. That's all personal. So you can't judge every situation. So I've literally just been talking about that today, actually, because they were talking about that on one of our forums on, should we discuss the hard subjects more? And I was like, yes, because they are hard subjects and there is no one answer fits all, but everybody wants there to be one answer and it isn't. And so we have to talk about it. So yeah, don't be afraid of hard posts, but just be prepared for what may come if you haven't managed to get it across well. There you go.
And there's always like duality in life, isn't there? When you're doing really well, sometimes the negative comes in to try and bring that balance back down. And a really great mentor of mine once said, like, actually you should celebrate the haters, because it actually means that you're elevating yourself higher. But that is like really amazing tips there. Like, I loved the fact that you really think those posts out and are able to explain yourself. And I guess it's just being about certain within yourself and your own experience and your own knowledge, so that if you're posting what you believe to be true, then you can stick by it. If you're jumping on the bandwagon, you're not really helping yourself, are you?
Exactly. And I think jumping on the bandwagon is probably a great word there, because that's what I was trying to say, is that I think that actually if you use science and you really back up what you're doing and what you're saying, then nobody's really got anywhere to argue, because you've come from a place of good background, good knowledge. I think really the difficult posts and the haters, if you like, are from situations where somebody has absolutely insisted that their way is the right way and there is no other way. And actually there may not even be that much science behind it. And that's tough. And sometimes there are times when there isn't that much science, and that doesn't necessarily make it wrong. It just means that we haven't had the ability to get the science there. but it's how you post it, acknowledging that, you know. So if I do something that isn't particularly as science-based as other things, I might say giving this a go or something like that, rather than like, this is what we're doing, you know, this is the right thing, because there just isn't any one right thing. And it, you know, it's so dependent on the patient and the situation and all those sorts of things, that different things come into play all the time as to what your choices are. And you need to be able to confidently own them. And then if somebody does want to argue with you, you can explain it in a sensible fashion. But, you know, sometimes it's better to just go all Harrods on it and don't explain. I think there's nothing wrong with that. You can be royal. It's okay.
Oh, I like that a lot. You are coming up with some great kind of top tips for advertising and getting your name out there. I know from our conversation last week that you've come up with a couple of unique concepts within your practice. Are you willing to share about kind of one being your pay it forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, definitely, because I'd really like for everybody to do it. I think it's a lovely thing to do. So, yes, and I have suggested it on the forums before, like, you know, when people have said things. So, because actually there was a great sort of situation the other day where somebody needed to fund a wheelchair for one of her patients. And I was like, I just pay it forward scheme. So yeah, during COVID, I realized how much people were struggling financially, and it isn't always about being on benefits. People were losing their jobs left, right, and center, and all that sort of thing. And so I had got my inspiration from basically the posts from coffee shops and stuff, where they had, you know, just have like a free coffee for somebody and they stick it to the wall, and then a homeless person could come in and get a coffee. And I thought, how lovely. And actually I thought I can do something like that, because I do like to think outside the box. I think it's really important. And I'm really conscious that not everybody can afford their rehab, and they really need to. And so I started a pay it forward scheme where basically clients can donate any amount of money. So it doesn't have to be a whole session or anything like that. They donate an amount of money. I stick it on the board. I've got literally a board up in there. Some of my clients regularly come in and just pay an extra £5 so that it can go on the board and stuff. And then that money just sits there until, you know, someone comes along that needs it. And I usually encourage the vets so they know that I've got this money sitting there, because they're the ones who see their first line seeing these patients. And then it means that basically they've got a funded session, so one full funded session, and then I throw in a free session as well. So they'll always get 2 sessions. After that, obviously, yeah, I can't do this forever, and I do want to make sure that I can help as many as possible, and I can teach an owner a lot in 2 sessions, an awful lot. So it gets them going. They can either carry on, and if they are, I always say, if you've got any money at any point in the future, come back, donate it back, and then it can go back on the wall again for somebody else. But there's usually enough there that's, you know, I mean, there's enough, I think, for 1.5, maybe 2 patients at the moment. So it's really good. It just sits there, and people, you know, I was worried that, oh God, they'll take it in a second and I won't have anything left for anybody, you know, who needs it. I have to be more cautious about who takes it and stuff. But actually, no, people are humble. They don't want to take it at all unless they really need it. And the only thing I ask is that I can use the story for the media, but not names and stuff. But the only reason why is because it encourages other people to pay it forwards as well. And, you know, it really works. And I mean, that was also inspired by a situation where I was in a petrol station once, and I didn't realize you can't pay with card there. And I'd only bought like £10 worth of petrol, but I didn't have anything to pay with other than my card. And I was like, oh no. I mean, this is a while ago, obviously. I think you couldn't pay by phone, actually. So it was when we were just starting to change over to phone payments rather than cards. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to do then, to the guy who was not being very helpful at all? Because I was like, you must have a PayPal or something here. I mean, there's a million ways to pay these days. Come on. And he wasn't helpful in the slightest. It was like 9:30 at night. My child was really young. My husband was at home with her. I was in Guildford, which is half an hour away. I was like, I don't want to drag him out of bed because he's going to have to bring my child out of bed. And that's not fun with a baby. And there was a million reasons why this wasn't great. And I stepped to one side in the queue, could see there was a lady behind me. And I just thought, oh, just serve her, it's fine. And I just thought, have a think, what can I do? I was basically trying to think, who could I call? I didn't know what else to do. Anyway, the lady just put £10 note in my hand and just said, just pay it forward one day. And I just cried. I was like, oh my God. Because I could have PayPal'd her, but she didn't want to. She just walked off so quick, and she was my angel that day.
Yeah.
And the guy at the station was like, "Whoa, I've never seen that before." And I was like, "Oh, a shame. You've never seen anybody be kind."
Yeah.
So, those moments in life are all the moments that form you and help inspire you, and you should always acknowledge them. And then from a business point of view, it's good for me in that I get more money in for a turnover. I mean, I'm still working for free because I give them another session for free.
Yeah.
But it also looks good from the media point of view. So there's nothing but good to be coming out of those types of ideas. And yes, I've had lots of them over the years, and some work, some don't. But I always say, don't be afraid to do what doesn't work, because nobody knows it didn't work because it didn't work.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. So you don't have to be humiliated or all the words that you might think of, because it didn't matter. It just didn't work, And, it's just one of those things. You just live and learn. But yeah, there's been a lot of thoughts over the years and lots of ideas. And luckily for me, I've just got a ton of support from a million amazing clients and vets. So that helps me.
Yeah, that was a point I wanted to get you to draw some more knowledge out of you about, is your vet connection. You said you were very blessed, you already knew quite a lot of vets, but this is kind of a sticking point for a new vet physio coming into the industry. How can they make an impression, and how can they start making connections with vets?
You have to, in my opinion, you have to learn a person. You can't expect one solution to fit everybody. Mm-hmm. You can't go into a vet with a ton of pens and just think, oh, they're going to be my friends now, because frankly, they get pens from everywhere. And if you've gone into a practice that's particularly environmentally friendly, they're just going to be annoyed with the tat you've just brought in. And then equally, you go along to another practice and you take chocolates, they're fruit eaters. That's not helpful. You go to another practice and they want the chocolate, but you've taken a bowl of fruit. Not helpful. So you kind of need to get to know people. You actually need to spend some time. You could walk into the practice and, kick up a conversation with the receptionist. Usually, not granted if they're really busy, but usually receptionists will be very chatty, bubbly people. That's why they're receptionists. They're good with people. Find out what floats the boat of the vets and stuff, and go in and, if you can offer something free that's useful, that's great. I mean, you might want to offer a free physio session to the animals of the practice owners or whatever. And I recognize that can be quite intimidating, because you're thinking, oh God, I know what the vet doesn't like what I do. Oh my God, that's scary. I totally get that. But you also got to remember that the vet's the vet. They're not the physio. I mean, some of them think they're physios, but they're not many of them. So, some of them do think they've done, enough training to be able to pull enough questions out. And to be honest, you just got to have faith. That's where you've got to find your inner confidence and recognize that you do know enough, you are good enough. And, if they ask you questions, they are perfectly valid to say, I will get back to you on that later. That is fine. It's okay to say, I'm so sorry, I'm really nervous right now. I can't actually get my head straight, so I'm going to get back to you on that later. Because they've all been new grads too. They've all been there. And most of the vets now these days are actually quite a lot younger and are, fresh enough to remember those days, because, a lot of them retired during COVID. So, you haven't got the older ones anyway. So it's fine. And you just do have to just find your way in. Now, I know I am blessed because, I'm a veterinary nurse, so that has helped me. And I know that I've worked in enough practices to mean that I've made connections, and that has helped. But it's not all of them. So like one of my most supportive practices, I actually connected with them just because I took my dog in for acupuncture. And then that was it. The vet was a captive audience for the whole of my acupuncture sessions. She had no choice but to listen to what I had to say. And we just got on, in that same way that you get on with any random person that you might happen to bump into. We just had a reason to get on and a connection. And then she sent me a test client. Oh, that's it. Yeah, definitely encourage them to send you a test client. That's fine. Just one to kick you off. Because, like she sent me a client that she deeply cared about, but she knew would be, I don't want to say challenge in a bad way, but she'd ask the questions. She loves the dog and all that sort of thing. And so she just sent me one to see how I would handle it. And if it wasn't going to go well, then that was never going to work. And it went very well. And I got on with her very well. And we've had a lasting relationship for many, many years and still do. She's very sweet. And so the point is, there are ways to break that barrier. absolutely. And I know it's difficult because there are multiple physios in the area and all that sort of thing, and you're all trying to fight at the same door of the same practices. I'm sure I've got physios around me trying to get into the practices that I'm in, but at the end of the day, you will get busy, and when you do, there's going to be gaps, and so you just need to be there waiting, ready to fill those gaps when somebody else can't take them on. They want to be seen, this Thursday at 8 a.m. and I haven't got a slot for them. That's going to be the next one, isn't it? So yeah, don't give up hope. Just recognize that this is what it takes ages, because it's a very personal business. This isn't something you buy, sits on the shelf, oh, it didn't work, never mind. This is people's beloved babies, and the vets recognize that too. And it's also their patients, and they don't want to be responsible for anybody else making any mistakes. And so, it is difficult. And I think you need to be sympathetic of that from the vet's perspective as well. And they will be much happier if they recognize that you recognize that difficulty. So, yeah.
I'm hearing a few themes from our conversation. Make connections, have faith, be bold, and be kind. If you can be anything, be kind to one another, in forums, to your peers, and to people in and around you. There's so much you can talk about, and I know that you do a lot of teaching yourself, but what's the next big thing for Donna? What's coming?
Oh, blimey. Okay. That's hard because I don't even, oh God, there's loads coming. There's always loads coming. I'm not ready to tell anyone. That's what it is. So I'm not always putting things out there until I'm ready to do so. And so I guess that is my protection method, if you see what I mean. So like I said to you before, if something fails, then if nobody knows, it didn't really matter, And so if I tell everybody and then it doesn't happen, then that'll be rubbish. So I have got things in the pipeline. I try really hard actually to annually make sure there's always something new every year. And that's from my perspective, I feel that's important because it keeps my job feeling not like a job, but like I'm something cool. Can you imagine doing 20 years of the same thing all the time and not actually having any change whatsoever? That'd be weird. I say that because even the veterinary itself should change and evolve as the science grows, right? But aside from that, I also don't want to be managing everything in the same way and just doing everything the same. It shouldn't be. That just wouldn't be right. 20 years of the same wouldn't be right. So I always try and have projects of all various sorts. And so I've had loads of them, and they've always paid off well. Like last year was setting up my new physio space. So I've got this lovely new room, and I've got my gait analyzer, which is a big thing actually that I have got to sort out, getting my head around it, because I need to be good at it when I start then offering it out to, so that is one I will talk about. I am going to offer that out to other animal rehabbers and, veterinary professionals, not so that they can, the point being is I can do a gait analysis and send the data back to them, so they can just send them simply to this, and then they can go straight back to where they are to get the rest of their treatment. So they can carry on with their same people, but I've got an extra option for them to use for their data gathering. So that'll be really good. But I like I say, I want to make sure that it's good before I start doing that. And then the other little nugget that you do know about, because we talked about, that will come and you will know about it when I'm ready to tell everybody about it and start all the marketing. But at the moment, it's definitely a giant secret. So, but that's fine. And then there will be more coming next year, because there always is. And there's always a ton of stuff to do. I mean, honestly, my little to-do list that sits right at the side of me and keeps moving on the days of the calendar as I go each year. I write it and rewrite it and rewrite. I don't often encourage lists in that rewrite way, but I do with that list, because it's the list that has to be done, if you see what I mean. So that's the one because it's like getting in your brain, got to do it. So yeah, there's a lot to come. You just have to be patient.
I'm excited. For anyone that has not ever been on your socials, how do they connect with you? How can they keep up to date with what's coming?
So socials definitely is the best way. And, like I must admit, I've fallen out of doing newsletters because MailChimp got a nightmare, and it's like I'm a one-man band. It is a struggle to keep on top of everything. But I will do it eventually. And I have got my website, which is www.animalphysiotherapy.org.uk, which nice and easy to find. Just Google animal physiotherapy and I'll be near the top. So yes, and you can contact me if you've got questions or anything like that. But yes, there's always a newsletter on there. Again, I'm just it's a blog post thing on there, but it's just changing website at the moment, so it's not updating right now, but it will do. But no, my socials is the best place. Facebook, to be fair, is the best social media for us people. I genuinely believe that. But I am on Instagram. But yeah, Facebook is where it's all happening, and you can see everything on there. And there's always a lot of chat as well, which is really nice because my clients are so kind and sweet. They all talk to each other on there, and I always think it's so sweet because they never met each other, but someone will put a comment on, and another one will answer it, and it's like, oh, you had a full conversation there. It's lovely. So yeah, Facebook's the place to be for the animal physio world.
I love that. Thank you for your grace. I've really enjoyed our conversations. I hope everyone that's listening also has enjoyed today's call. I'm sure we'll hear more from you. And thank you for your service to dogs in this world.
Oh, thank you. You are so welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of what I've done, very proud of what I've achieved, and very proud to be keeping going. And I have no intention of stopping. So yeah, it's all good. And thank you for your time. It's been lovely to chat, lovely to reflect on the business, to be honest. So yeah, lovely. Thank you so much.